All right, the WEF came out with a report this year on the future of work. And one of the top headlines is 170 million new jobs will be created by 2030. That sounds great, right? But it's actually very concerning when you dig into the numbers and when you look at the actual report. So I'm going to outline a little bit of why this headline and why this jobs report is concerning. Like first, like off the top of the list is that most of the growth in a lot of these jobs is low income work. So categories like farm work, categories like shop, salespeople, those types of things stand out for a lot of the bulk of this job creation. And the second and probably most alarming piece is that for a lot of the kind of knowledge work jobs, right? 39% of people surveyed are saying that the jobs that are being created in those types of areas of big data, AI, analytics, software development, those types of things are going to necessitate different types of skills than what they currently have or what is currently being taught in the college level. And so my concern here is that, okay, there's a ton of growth, but are we set up to adapt and change in our careers, given that we don't know what the future holds? We don't know what the technology that's coming is going to create or destroy for us, right? Because baked into this headline down below is that 92 million jobs are going to be displaced also, right? The only thing that we know is that the future is uncertain and we need to be able to adapt in any way possible for the future. Most predictions are wrong. Technology, life, everything is completely changing day in, day out, and it's really, really hard to predict that future. So the question that I always have in the back of my mind is, are you as a knowledge worker, are you equipped to adapt to the changing landscape? So we're going to kind of dig in and talk a little bit about what that means. All right, this is question number 2. What specific moment or realization made you first concerned about the future of careers? I would say that for some reason, I've been able to adapt and change and take on new career opportunities. But as a coach, when I talk to somebody who has been laid off or are in a situation where they think a layoff is coming, I just see and feel the anxiety. And it goes to like level 30 for people, and they get so consumed with what they should do, and they're just frantically scrambling. And I see those data points and I think, man, like so few people, I think most people take a job and a career as like a right and that it's pretty safe and guaranteed. And when I see this reaction, they feel like it's come out of left field and it completely disrupts their entire life for several months. It affects their identity. It affects how they deal with their children. It affects their self-worth. It affects their ability to focus and plan and really make the next move. And I started thinking like, wow, this is not a problem of skill. It's not a problem of competence. This is a problem of adaptability, flexibility, being able to change and adapt no matter what comes your way, because you don't control everything in your career. And so when I saw the WEF report after I've been a coach for a while, and I've talked about this before, like when you get to the skills for the future section of that, flexibility, adaptability, resilience, those are 3 out of the top 10 skills that they highlight as necessary for the future of work. And I just feel like we as a society are not set up that way. Everything in society right now is set up to be streamlined, to be efficient, to do one thing, to be a cog in the wheel. And there is really no adaptability baked in, right? Who is teaching this? Who is helping people to think about career resilience and career adaptability? And so that was really, really, really concerning for me when I first saw this report. So when I dig into this report and the data associated with it, I mean, a couple things stand out. So number one is looking at the largest growing and declining jobs by 2030, right? So these are listed in order on the website. They list 15 of the largest growing jobs. Okay. Number one is farm workers, laborers, and agricultural workers. Number two is light truck or delivery service drivers. Three is software application developers. Four is building, framers, finishers, and related trades work. Five is shop salesperson. Then food processing and related trade workers. Then seven is car, van, and motorcycle drivers. And, just kind of on down the list, 13 and 14, university and higher education teachers, and 14 is secondary education teachers. So what stands out to me and why this is concerning is when we think about technological driven change, what's interesting is we have like an entire industry built on self-driving vehicles. We're not there yet, but light truck and delivery service drivers, car, van, and motorcycle drivers, those types of jobs seem to have the wind in their face, not at their back. And I don't know how that's accurately reflected in this report. Because if we have many different companies from Uber to Waymo to Tesla working on driverless driving and moving, those seem to be going the way of the dinosaur, to be honest with you. So I don't know exactly how they're getting these numbers. And that's really concerning. If top 15 jobs for growth, some of these are low level, low pay, farm work, labor, trades, and these delivery service driving and things like that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I worry about where the growth is actually coming from for knowledge workers, for like educated people. And then going down to, again, the university and secondary education teachers, I feel like, and I see the same trend in education, where I think less people are actually going to get a standard university degree. I have 3 kids. I would make a bet that at least one of them does not pursue traditional college, because there's a lot of other ways there's so much education out there on the internet. We can learn any hard skill we want. We can learn any topic we want pretty much for free. And I don't know that the value prop for university education is really there. So when I eliminate some of these categories in the top 15, I'm like, where is the job growth? That's number one. And then number two, which I kind of touched on in the first montage, was this idea of skills workers need to thrive. Employers expect 39% of key skills required in job market will change by 2030. And that's a significant disruption. So technological skills are projected to grow in importance. That makes a ton of sense, thinking about how we all already interact with AI and can leverage AI, automations and things like that. Being able to work with the machines makes a ton of sense. But then highlighting things like creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, agility are also rising in importance, along with curiosity and lifelong learning. And it's just so interesting to me that these are highlighted in a WEF report. To me, these are like table stakes. It makes sense for everyone to have these, and for this to be highlighted as a gap in the needs of the labor force was really, really stunning to me to see. And I think it represents a really big problem. Again, not in our ability to learn, but in our own mindsets and how we approach life in general. So those are my takes there. When I was working in corporate, I really started to get interested in this whole idea of adaptability and resilience and these skills, because I personally, my point of view is I look at the future as very uncertain. And I feel like we need to be able to cultivate the mindset, mentality, and skills, which a lot of them are soft. A lot of them don't necessarily go on a resume, but we need to be able to cultivate these things because change is a certainty. And so when I was in a large insurance company, thousands of employees, We're constantly restructuring the business, taking entire teams of people and giving them different mandates, moving them around. I saw one friend and colleague got reorged and his mission changed like 3 or 4 times within 4 years. Um, and I would just watch the disruption and the time it would take to realign all of those people, the personal anxiety, but also just the lost productivity for the business when you're constantly reorging and people don't have clear expectations, don't necessarily understand how they fit into the new scheme. And so this is really, really problematic, not just from an individual contributor standpoint, but also from the organization as a whole. And at my particular vantage point was in corporate innovation. We were very sexy, we were kind of leading edge. What I realized was that most corporations cannot speak the language of fast-moving, dynamic startup. They don't understand failure, 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 success. They don't understand how signals of progress really work in a fast-paced, changing environment. Just the language, the corporate speak versus the innovation kind of startup speak was really, really a huge barrier. We would do really good work. We would have some failures. Um, we would always Internally, we would celebrate those failures as learning, but in communication back to the organization, we would very much have to minimize those. We couldn't necessarily talk about what we learned from that failure that we could use to propel the next step. It was very much about wins and losses, and it was just eye-opening to me, because I come from a point of view where adaptability, trying, failing, all of that stuff is extraordinarily necessary. And one of the things that you need in order to do that is humility, like the humility to say, I don't know. But my best guess is we try this and we ruthlessly measure what we learn. We throw away what doesn't work. We double down on what does, and we keep going. And that is like completely foreign to a lot of corporations who want the answer and want certainty before the project is even started. So I just saw this dysfunction and I looked at, who are the people that are succeeding here, right? And the people that are succeeding were the ones that were able to adapt. They were able to take on a level of uncertainty and look at it as a challenge and not immediately go to, well, if this project fails, I'm fired. And so this idea of adaptability, of being flexible, of thinking not in terms of black and white, but operating in a gray area, I saw as being really, really crucially important to the future of work. Because the innovation department, like that is the future. That was where we were going, building new products and services to serve our customer base, not just operating and sitting back on the old model. Like that's the cutting edge. And so if we have to go and operate in this type of ambiguity, we need people that can adapt and understand and work and thrive in that gray zone. First, if we're going to thrive in the future of work, we cannot take for granted our role and responsibility for cultivating what we need in that future. And so if we think about our own careers from that vantage point, right? Let's say the future is unknown. There's a lot of things to worry about, technological change, industries growing, industries dying, AI, apocalypse, all of that stuff, right? We don't know what that is. We have to take radical responsibility for our careers and for growing in the ways that will set us up for success no matter what comes. And so the idea of breaking work and why I talk about breaking work so much, it's not that we take what we have and we throw it away and go on some journey towards the unknown and all of that. It is breaking down and getting inside the different pieces of our work and of our careers and understanding what is needed for the future, what is not serving me, what is serving me, how I can build on top of certain strengths and advantages forget my weaknesses, maybe stop playing the politics game, maybe start tinkering in your own time on a business for yourself or on a project for the company that you really care about, right? Like take some smaller risks, but there are so many levels to work that we take for granted, that we take as default, as the way we do things, as the way we are supposed to operate. And when you start to break those down and break them apart, you can really start to focus on what matters to you, what you want to prioritize, what your view of success looks like, and then craft and create little pathways to get more of those things, to build a life where you work from home and see your kids like I did, or just to find the best aligned culture in the right industry for you that just pulls at your curiosity, that lights you up, that energizes you to work. Um, because we don't just have to make decisions by looking at what jobs are available, picking one, applying, and hoping for the best. Like there's so much that around work and work-life integration that we can control and that we can shape to get better outcomes, not just in 15 years or to set us up for a better retirement package, but to craft our lives better right now and work better for us, get more performance and impact out of ourselves, go on a mission that you actually care about, to do great work, to provide for your kids. All of these things are interrelated because we spend the most time of our lives at work. And so we need to cultivate the skill set to take a higher perspective, to look at the playing field, see all of the things that are going on, and then choose which ones we want to do and which ones we want or should say no to. And so that's really the essence of breaking work. It's taking the default view of get a job, go to work, put your time in, make money, get promoted, and throw that perspective against the wall, cobble the pieces together, and start to look at how you can rearrange those to get more fulfillment, more impact, more money, all the things that you do want. It's a kind of a game of Tetris or chess, if you will. And I just think it's a huge missing skill set, or our ability to take that higher perspective, look down at what we actually can control. We can't control everything, but what we can control, we can pick apart and we can stack the deck in our favor. We can use our advantages better. And maybe it's a different line of work, maybe it's a different company, but to get to the highest odds career choice, we need to be able to stack those advantages in our favor. And I think for most people without a framework for that, they dissolve into, I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. I'm just going to keep going on the same path. My feeling, and I'm not a labor market expert, obviously, but my feeling is that the labor market is going to continue to bifurcate, which means that at the top, more rewards and accolades are going to flow. And at the bottom, you're going to have jobs that maybe can't be automated quite yet or require a little bit of nuance, but are considered lower level. And so the bottom middle is going to be pushed down into those areas. And the top middle is going to have to integrate to survive. So if you are an individual contributor or manager, those types of things, and again, I'm talking mostly to knowledge workers, the integration of your role into the bigger picture is going to be very, very important. So right now, most companies are structured as you have a lane, you have a job responsibility, you do that, they measure it in some way, and the integration into the larger picture, the overall goals of the company come at a management layer. Unfortunately, I think that if you are someone who is very proficient and skilled at your lane, but lacks the ability to integrate up into the bigger picture, you're going to struggle. And so And this also applies to mid-level and even some of the senior level managers, right? Like if you are a good integrator, but you lack the understanding of how the things get done below you, you're going to struggle, because somebody who's very technically proficient in that top middle half is going to come up with all of that technical knowledge and ability, and they've learned how to integrate, and they're going to take over. So what I think is going to happen is that jobs are going to be much more outcome driven and tied to outcomes that integrate up into the larger picture. So if you're like in a customer service role, let's say, and you're measured on customer satisfaction, right, or something like that, there's going to come a time where your company says, we need you to hit these numbers at X price point, or the other option is that we automate this entire thing for Y price point, which is going to be lower than your price point probably. And we're willing to accept the errors and problems that arise through that, because the delta, the gap there, the cost savings is so great. And so if you can't automate and streamline the technical aspects of your job and move your time commitment up a level into the integration, I think you're going to struggle, because the reality is that AI is taking over a lot of things. People are obviously becoming much more productive with it. And if you can't coach yourself, if you can't be responsible for understanding what you need to learn and develop, and it's generally not a specific skill, it's generally a level of resilience and adaptability, strategic thinking, critical thinking. Critical thinking is massively waning, especially for the younger people coming into the workforce, because they get the answers from Google or from ChatGPT. They just get the answers and they don't think about the bigger picture. So that's a big problem as well. So it's this integration layer. It's this abstracting the job from the purpose of the job and the outcome of that needs to be in everybody's skill set. So just traditional solutions like taking a whole bunch of people and reskilling them, or job training, I think a lot of that stuff is going to be on the individual, forced on the individual, much like the retirement planning was forced on the individual, right? We used to have pensions and the company would take care of all of those things, but now it's on you. Like, you have to make your own investing decisions. You have to put money in and all of that. I think there's another evolution, because I think at the end of the day, what companies are going to look for is, how are people adapting and growing? And so if you're not responsible for your own learning journey, reskilling, upskilling, job training, they're going to find someone or something that can do it faster. And so I do think this is one of those big areas of responsibility. Like, it's not just you get the job, you have a path, you work with a mentor. Like, you have to start investing serious time and serious energy into the higher level skills that you are going to need to future-proof your career. And they're laid out in this WEF report. So I think it's on us, it's on you to do that. And I think that is how companies are going to measure who they keep around and who they don't. So there's a silver lining in change and in disruption, right? It's not just a one-way bad street. So what's really interesting here is that while I think the construct of work is going to change a lot, meaning we all have these roles and job responsibilities and pieces of the puzzle that we create within a company, impact outcome is driven not just by the hard skill and your ability to do the work that you're paid to do. The market for talent, for problem solvers, is fragmenting massively because of the internet. So what you have, like the opportunity you have right now, is to say, my job responsibilities may potentially go away or change or be automated. but my value and impact as a human being does not. And so what needs to happen here is you have to come to an understanding of your unique advantages and value. And that's a whole lot more than just what you know and what you can do and your expertise, your industry expertise and things like that. People all over the internet right now are creating businesses, solving problems, operating as independent contractors and consultants, and companies are buying their services because they're searching for people who can adapt, change, solve problems, and be responsible for outcomes. And that comes from that ownership mentality. So if you're struggling with, my identity is this job and I don't know what's going to happen in the future, the way that we solve this problem is to go through a process called advantage mapping, where we take a look at you as an individual in 8 different dimensions, and we really dissect and analyze how you create unique value. This is what you care about deeply. This is how you work, what your personality is like, how you make decisions, how you learn, the support system you have around you, all a bunch of different things. When you have a really succinct and defined version of you at your best, that is your foundation to start looking at other ways you can pivot and use and leverage that foundation to build a career, make money, have a job, all of these things. What's happening right now is we're in our brain, we're saying, I am a data scientist. Data scientist jobs are being eliminated and AI is massively impacting data science jobs. And we can't think about how all of the skills and value we have as an individual and our perspective, our unique points of view on the world, like how those can be used in a different way. So this is kind of the essence of adaptability, is you have to first have an idea of like your really strong core foundation, that the way that you can create the most impact in the world by just being you. And then we can go look at options to use that and leverage that. We can tinker with it. We can build programs. We can do the work that is needed to find the right job instead of randomly applying to everything that comes along the way. But it takes a level of introspection first. Okay. But that is the way that you shatter your perspective on what is available to you, on what your options could be to build the life that you want. It starts internally, and it's a prerequisite, and we have a framework to do that. People need to understand what are the highest priorities, what are their advantages that they can leverage to get there, and what are the steps that they need to take in order to build a better life. And that might be in a different company. That might be in a different line of work. But when you can see how the uniqueness of you and all of your advantages can be used in multiple dimensions, your world starts to kind of expand and open up. You feel a lot more confident. You feel a lot more, I think people right now are feeling like there's so many limited options. Oh my God, the world is falling, all of that kind of stuff. But when you go through this process, you start to have more faith. You start to be more upbeat, see more opportunity, and be re-energized and reinvigorated, because that you know that, all right, if things change over here, I can go do this. That's a key element of adaptability and resilience in the workplace. Absolutely. So breaking work is a 2-stage process. Number one is right up here in the old noodle, in the old noggin. You have to be able to take a 30,000-foot view, break down what's working, what's not working for you, and create a better vision and future. And I don't tell anybody to just quit their jobs there. Okay. But once you have some sovereignty over your time and over what you want, you start to feel better. And then you can start to make plans to exit that job, to repackage yourself in a different way, to build a side business. But just quitting your job makes no sense, because yeah, absolutely, you have responsibilities. You have things that you have to pay for, right? But the cool thing is, with the tools available today, with some time sovereignty, with this ability to kind of reclaim some of your time that we teach, you're able to carve some space out and you realize that not everything I do that keeps me working from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. has to be done that way. You can start to breathe easier, open up, and really start to channel all of your planning into the things that you actually want. So it is a process, it's a risk managed process. It isn't just quit, burn the boats, go follow your passion. That's exactly the wrong advice. But it takes some real work to look at your foundational advantages, map those out, and then chart a path of high odds. If this video resonates with you, I highly encourage you to book a Freedom Scan chat with me. There's a 15 to 30-minute conversation all about where you're at in your work life, what you're worried about, and we chart a course. We help you understand exactly what needs to take place to change your circumstances and to start feeling better, more impactful, and use your foundational advantages to their highest potential.